Hey everybody, welcome back to Movies You Missed. This is episode 6, and my goodness gracious, it is quite a badass episode. I can't wait to get into it. What do you think, V?
We are coming in hot again this week. Similar vein as last week's picks, to be honest with you. We're kind of on a mob kick right now, but totally worth it, and oh man, you're really, really going to enjoy these picks.
I think so, and I'm excited because we had a little engagement on our Instagram page about both films, and somebody actually guessed one of them, so that was very exciting. And I really enjoyed my pick and yours. Not that I haven't before, but I really liked it again because the first time I saw it was with you.
Yeah, I remember that fondly, and that's the thing is that we are now officially live. We have premiered and have been live for a week, and just so thrilled to not only be sharing this with friends, family, and now fans, but also just so really grateful for the reception that we've been getting. The feedback that we've been getting is great, and so please keep that coming. We are so stoked to bring this podcast to you.
100%. I do want to thank everybody that's listened so far. We are at almost 100 downloads, which is pretty badass, I gotta say, just like the episode's going to be.
Shit. Yes.
I know, you keep sending me the stats. I'm like, all right, yeah. Very, very exciting stuff. So thank you for everybody that has stuck with us through our first 5 episodes. Maybe you binged them and have come back for more on your plate.
Yeah, and so now that we are premiered and live, this show will be released every Wednesday. An episode will drop. So go ahead and subscribe on your favorite podcast app that you use, and you will get an alert letting you know that a new episode has dropped.
Hell yeah, V. This is some good stuff. The reception, like you said, has been great, and I can't wait to continue on because the list just keeps growing, and the additions to the list are exciting.
Yes, and we are just so grateful for the reception so far and really excited to see where this goes.
Absolutely. It's like a freight train that will not stop now.
Fucking hope so.
Indeed. Almost like Snowpiercer just keeps going around the world, around the world. Did you not see Snowpiercer?
Nope.
Okay. Well, basically, the whole premise is there's a train that just circles the globe. Yeah, that's all it is.
Okay.
Yeah, we're kind of going on an interesting run right now, but I fucking love it. I got to be honest. The movies last week were great. These movies this week were great. I hadn't seen yours since you and I watched it, which is over 10 years ago.
Whoa. So, okay, I'm glad I reintroduced you to it then.
Oh, as am I. I'm very much looking forward to talking about that one.
Yeah, so you had seen it for the first time at my apartment that one time then?
I had actually spent a few months working on the advertising for your film. And the thing about working in advertising is majority of the time you do have to see it from beginning to end. Mm-hmm. But we did not get a from beginning to end of your pick. We ended up getting several different sequences that kind of look like they would play together. And in a very, very strange way, most of the trailers that we put together for your pick ended up telling the entire movie from beginning to end. Not even lying to you.
You started that trend then. God damn it.
I must have. No, it was strange because watching your pick, I'm like, I remember that from the trailer. I don't remember it from watching it with you.
I guess I'm not that memorable.
Well, you are the most memorable. But, it's interesting when you see something so many times, especially working in advertising. Like at the time, it was your pick. It was Tropic Thunder. It was Pineapple Express. It was Kung Fu Panda. So it was the same scenes over and over and over and over again. So they just get embedded in your head as that's the movie. So when I watched it with you, I remember being like, that was actually a good movie. I guess we didn't really show the entire thing. But then actually watching it last night before we were recording today, I was thinking, we showed the entire movie. In the advertising, we showed everything that really gives any kind of, definitely didn't show the end and didn't show certain sequences, but there's a lot of your movie that we definitely showed.
Oh, I guess that's a really good notice for our audience, though, is actually after this episode, hopefully you'll watch the movie outright and don't prep yourself with the trailer.
I would think so, and the thing about it is that I actually found interesting about you is that last week with my pick, you said that you watched the trailer before you watched the movie, and I actually haven't done something like that in maybe 15 years, but I used to do that. I would definitely sit at home and I would watch trailers. And then I realized that my sound system didn't convey what I wanted to while watching these trailers, so I just waited for the big screen to see them. And even after watching my pick last week, I actually did watch the trailer. I watched the Lucky Number 11 trailer. I watched the Running Scared trailer. And I love trailers. I always get to the theaters to watch the trailers.
Same.
Like when I went to see the movie The Northman, got to be there before the trailers start, because what's coming out? Even though we know Doctor Strange is coming out, there's going to be other movies other than Marvel that's going to take the summer. But there's some movies coming out that I am very excited for.
Yes, same. And I'm a huge trailer person as well, actually. And I almost went into editing trailers professionally when I was in the industry. I just really enjoyed watching them so much. And some evenings when I just don't know what the hell I want to watch, I will spend an hour or two just watching trailers. And, being on Apple TV, it'll recommend other trailers for you, and you go down that rabbit hole, and it's super fun.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
So, yes, it's true. These two movies that we picked this week are a little along the same vein as last week, and a bit grittier, definitely gangster-driven, crime-driven. I would say the movies this week are entertaining as hell, though.
Oh, very much so.
And not that last week's weren't entertaining, but they were a bit more, I would say, intense and more... And that's the thing, is that, we'll ebb and flow through different genres and through different decades here. And the last 2 weeks happen to be, kind of crime-ridden movies. But before that, we had a basically Disney movie. So we're always going to change it up. All right. Well, should we get into it?
Oh, we should dive right in head first like everybody else in both of these movies has.
That's a good transition. Okay, so I think I'm actually first this week.
You are. Let's get rocking.
All right.
See what I did there?
All right. Without further ado, my pick this week is Rocknrolla by Guy Ritchie. So good. So for those of you who may be familiar with him, Guy Ritchie is a very famous writer and director. He really just burst out of the gate right from the get-go as a writer and director. He started off with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. He has made Snatch, which is a really well-received movie of his in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And then also he did both Sherlock movies with Robert Downey Jr., which I absolutely loved. He did the live-action version of Aladdin recently, which I did not see.
Oh.
You know what? I kind of have objections to Disney remaking classics into live action.
Watch Aladdin.
Really?
Yeah, watch it.
Here's the other thing. Robin Williams will always be the genie to me. And so
he's the genie to everybody.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
Okay.
I saw it in theaters. I've watched it 3 times since.
Okay. All right.
It's not a phenomenal movie. It's a lot of fun, though.
Okay.
And I'm with you on the live-action remakes. There haven't been great ones. I liked Cinderella. I thought Kenneth Branagh did a great job with that.
True.
And
the Jungle Book was fucking
amazing.
Great, though. That's true.
Amazing.
But Lion
King was garbage.
Didn't enjoy it at all.
I didn't need to see a shot-for-shot fucking remake of the classic Lion King, especially with an added-on garbage song from Beyonce. And you are going to leave this in because Beyonce sucks.
Oh my God. Again, opinions. Everybody has their own opinion.
Mine's the correct one.
Oh my God.
No, but I'm with you though on the weariness of the live actions. I'm looking forward to the Little Mermaid though. I think it's going to be pretty good.
Right.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's doing the music, so I think.
Yeah, and I'll watch anything he does. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rocknrolla. That was a tangent.
Rocknrolla. A little bit.
So, in 2008, Guy Ritchie made this movie. It was after Snatch, called Rocknrolla. It did not have the same reception as Snatch in the U.S. I think it's a bit underrated. I absolutely think it's worth watching, and a lot of people missed it the first time around. It's one of my favorite Guy Ritchie movies, although that's hard to say because I am a big fan of just about everything he does.
Right.
Rocknrolla takes place in London. Thankfully, this week we can actually explain plots a little bit better.
I think so.
There is a Russian billionaire who comes into town who wants to make a crooked land deal. He contacts a gangster who's well known in London, and then all of a sudden, everybody starts learning about this land deal. Every criminal in London starts wanting to get their hands on this land deal and the money that's going to change hands for this land deal to go through. And this is the story about what happens when things don't go to plan.
Right. A very fascinating way of intertwining so many characters and keeping it fascinating. Because in certain movies, a lot of times it just feels like a jumble. It's like, why do we have all these characters? However, I feel like Guy Ritchie does that well with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, several different characters, at least 10 to 12 quote-unquote main characters, number 1 through 12 on the call sheet. And it does not feel convoluted. It doesn't feel like, wait, what's going on with this person? Every time they show up on screen,
yeah.
right, every time they show up, you know what's going on with them.
Absolutely. And they're all very well defined, so you don't forget who the hell these people are. He is one of the best in the business at making ensemble movies these days.
I would say that's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, and so, yes, you're right. He has very exciting characters. There's several of them. And the funny thing is, now all these actors are really, really big. And they weren't that big in 2008 when he made this film. And so the funny thing is that Gerard Butler stars in this movie.
Yeah.
And he is now probably the least famous or active person out of the cast at this point.
Yeah, I would say that's a good observation.
It was a big flip.
He was in Greenland recently, though, which actually was really good. And he's got the Olympus Has Fallen series.
True, yes.
And I actually didn't see the finality of that series, but I really did enjoy Olympus Has Fallen. I thought that was actually really good.
I did too, actually. I thought that was a pretty fun action movie. That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, he is definitely well-known, right? And
very. I've heard from people that have worked with Gerard Butler that he actually is a really stand-up dude. He's a really easy guy to talk to.
Nice. No, he's cool.
Yeah. Makes me happy.
Yeah, I've liked a lot of the stuff that he's done. I'm
a big Gerard Butler fan. I gotta say, I even like The Ugly Truth. I think The Ugly Truth is great. He's not in comedy often, but he was so good in that.
He was great in that. I love that movie. So.
And then let's not forget the Hilary Swank led P.S. I Love You. What a movie that was. That was a great movie.
Yeah, he definitely used a different accent in that movie too, because he was Irish in that movie.
Oh, but real quick, we should also mention the horrendous, and I mean every sense of the word horrendous, Emmy Rossum Gerard Butler fronted The Phantom of the fucking Opera. What horrendous. A garbage movie.
It's the right word.
Oh, so bad.
100% the right word for that.
Minnie Driver's worst performance of her career.
Oh, God, yes.
Opinions.
So, this movie is fast-paced, it's slick, it's got this great, I love Guy Ritchie's editing style, fun. Kind of reminds me of Tony Scott in a bit, right? Like
definitely.
Man on Fire style, like very,
that's a good sound effect. I know what you mean, though. It's very
frantic and just like just like
some of the shots too, like especially towards like Act 3 when they decide to abandon the car and they're running through the train tracks. There's certain shots where it's like, is the camera attached to them? Is the camera?
It is.
I really like the shots like that in Rocknrolla, and especially the opening credit sequence of Rocknrolla. Awesome.
His opening credits are usually great. Yeah, so that's called a snorri cam.
Snorri cam.
Yeah,
okay.
Or a chest cam. So that's when it's attached to the actor or actress to show really, and the camera moves when they move, so it's kind of centered on them. It's really interesting. But yeah, I love that scene, and because it's Gerard Butler retelling what happened, that's why you get that stylized version of it, and it's a little bit more intense and everything, because he's retelling it to somebody else, which is great. Absolutely great. And it's not, and this I think is true with Guy Ritchie movies, it's not just a shoot 'em up movie. It's not just an action movie. He has super witty dialogue.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody
The jokes are like hard hitting and fast. I call him the British Aaron Sorkin. Because I think his screenwriting ability, his dialogue writing ability is really top tier. Really,
his dialogue is great, and that's actually what held my attention watching this again, was the fact that it opens up immediately with Mark Strong's overture of what's a rock'n'rolla, and it's like, what is a rock'n'rolla? And then he like explains it to you while you're coming up behind Johnny Quid, and then he turns around, he's smoking that fat bong, he's like, the rock'n'rolla wants the lot, and you're like, this is gonna be a ride.
People ask the question, what's a rock'n'rolla? And I tell them, it's not about drums, drugs, and hospital drips. Oh no. There's more there than that, my friend. We all like a bit of the good life. Some the money, some the drugs, others the sex game, the glamour, or the fame. But a rock'n'roller, oh, he's different. Why? Because a real rock'n'roller wants the fucking lot.
Yes, exactly.
We're going on something that we very likely have seen before, but it's in the Guy Ritchie style, and it's going to have a cast of merry men that I can't wait to hang out with, including Thandie fucking Newton, who is a badass in this flick.
Yes. Oh my God, she's so cool. Just
sexy too.
She exudes this elegance that you can't learn, you can't be taught. She was born with that, man. Like,
oh yeah.
God, this is the way she
smokes that cigarette.
Like, I think smoking is disgusting, but the way she smokes a cigarette, I'm like, fuck, I'd buy a pack.
Oh gosh, it's so awesome. It's so true that the way she lights it and just the way she exhales that smoke is sexy. I don't know why, but I'm just like, Thandie Newton.
Yeah, she's great, and she definitely holds her own in this movie. I think she's a really great actress, and I was actually introduced to her through the terrible movie that is Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, that is the worst one of the Mission Impossibles.
It absolutely is the worst one. It killed the Mission Impossible franchise for several years because it was so bad.
It really did kill it. I did go see Mission Impossible 3 right away because of the fact that Philip Seymour Hoffman was the bad guy and that J.J. Abrams directed it.
That's why I saw it, because of J.J., yeah.
Yeah, but Mission Impossible 2. Anyway. Talking about Thandie Newton.
Yes, and one of the things I love about Guy Ritchie and the stories that he tells is that he ties everything together really well. This is an ensemble movie, but all the stories are really, really fun, how the characters are connected to each other and how that all plays out and unfolds is really, really fun about all Guy Ritchie movies, and including this one. And speaking of Thandie Newton, remember there's one sex scene in this movie, and
yes.
It is not gratuitous in any way. It's actually probably like no other sex scene you've seen before is probably true. The way it's edited and put together and everything, it's hilarious. And the reason why it was filmed that way and then edited that way is because Gerard Butler had a horrible cold on the days they were planning to shoot that scene.
No way.
And so she refused to kiss him. She didn't want to be near him, which rightly so. He was super sick, had this horrible throat and chest cold, and so that's why they shot the sex scene the way it is. And so it's really funny and just definitely a same Guy Ritchie style, and so yeah, I mean, even though there's a sex scene in this movie, it's not the normal kind of sex scene that you would be expecting in a movie.
No, not at all. And when I watched it, definitely when it ended and she lights a cigarette, I'm like,
yeah.
Like that's kind of it.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, and I did not know that. That's a good little tidbit to find out because they definitely are not close to each other in any of those shots.
No.
They're far away. He's either on the bed, she's on the bed, or she's up top, and
exactly. It's one of the very few sex scenes that I'm completely comfortable watching with anyone. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
I liked that in all actuality, as much as the center of the story is this crooked land deal, the true center of the story is this lucky painting.
Yeah,
that just keeps getting taken. One of my favorite parts is when Lenny brings all his goons into the room, and he's like, "My painting was stolen." Tom Wilkinson, who by the way fucking kills this role.
Yes.
So awesome. And you can tell Tom Wilkinson has been wanting to play somebody like this for years. And I just love him to death. I love Tom Wilkinson in almost everything I've seen him in. But I love him in this movie. He's so horrible, but he's so funny. And I just love his pathos in the movie as Lenny. And the whole is like, this is my city. I own the fucking town. And there's no school like the old school. And I'm the head fucking master. Like that kind of stuff.
And Tom Wilkinson he has over 132 credits. That man has been in...
Does he really?
Yeah, he's
my
great.
Gosh.
He's great. He's a gem. Speaking of Mission Impossible, he was actually the IMF director in Ghost Protocol.
That's right.
Right?
Ghost Protocol.
And the funny thing is you saying that, I bet it seems like he had wanted to play this his whole career. He then becomes Carmine Falcone in Batman Begins. He did such a great job in Batman Begins as well. Don't come down here with your anger. Oh, God, that's so fucking good.
Yeah. I forgot Tom Wilkinson was in Batman Begins.
He's the Doctor in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
That's right. Oh my gosh.
And this bit part, he's in The Patriot as the Mel Gibson movie, The Patriot, as a British officer. And I love his character because he has these two Great Danes.
Yes.
And they're named Jupiter and Mars. And I always thought that was so cool when I was growing up and watched that movie. I was like, those are great names for those dogs. Back to Rocknrolla. And one thing that not only Guy Ritchie is known for, but I'm sure I'm becoming known for it as well, is having a fantastic soundtrack.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Great soundtrack. The punk rock concert scene where it's actually a live show of the Subways playing Rock and Roll Queen. Fuck, that was so good. Just so gritty.
That was an actual band?
Yeah, they're called the Subways, and that was at an actual concert. And
no way, I did not know that.
Yeah, and so they actually had to play that song twice for Guy Ritchie so he could get all the shots he needed for the movie, which was pretty cool. Yeah.
I like those. I like that sequence. It was shot very well. I like I like the choice of angles in that sequence.
I think all of Guy Ritchie is very deliberate in everything he does and how he sets up every scene, and I really enjoy that a lot.
It's interesting you say that because actually every time that I've watched a Guy Ritchie movie with my father and watched a Christopher Nolan movie with my father, my dad has said to me, every piece of dialogue is necessary.
Yes.
And I agree with both of those observations as Christopher Nolan and Guy Ritchie. Watching Rocknrolla, every word is important. I think I realized that in the sequence when we meet the Wild Bunch and we meet Tom Hardy playing cards with his buddies as Handsome Rob, and then we pan back and we see Mumbles, Idris Elba, and 1-2 Gerard Butler. Then Gerard Butler takes Mumbles in the back and goes, "Hey, you remember that accountant? She's offered us a job, a proper job." But he puts his fingers together like a gun. When I watched that scene, I thought it was an assassination attempt. I didn't think that it was going to be a robbery about money. I thought it was going to be an assassination attempt. So when they actually very hilariously rob those two guys the first time, tell you what, I felt that there could have been a minute or two shaved off, but overall, I feel like that's kind of how it would go if you're almost quote-unquote inexperienced.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yes, agreed. Yeah, I
mean, like he rolls one, he's like, "How do you put it in reverse?" I'm just like...
Because it's a stick shift.
What the fuck? Yeah.
It's like, now fuck off.
Yeah, now fuck off. Yeah, everything is fuck off. And that was both of our movies. I think fuck off was said almost every 5 minutes.
Oh, gosh. If not more so. Yeah, we've been on a roll lately with the cussing, that's for sure.
Yes.
As you mentioned, Tom Hardy is in this movie. Very famous, very awesome. And the thing is, his performance in this movie led Christopher Nolan to hiring him for Inception and A Dark Knight Rises.
No way.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how we get Tom Hardy as Bane in Dark Knight Rises.
I love the guy. I just love him.
Yeah.
The guy is a master at what he does. And I think he's one of those quote-unquote non-method actors where he definitely gets into the character as much as he can, but he doesn't let it overtake him, kind of like how Daniel Day-Lewis does. Daniel Day-Lewis truly is the method. He likes to be called the character. He does not like to involve himself like when he was doing Lincoln. He didn't involve himself with cell phones or electronics. He did it all by handwritten letters and this, that, and the other.
He built a cabin using 1700s or 1600s tools for the Crucible. He lived in the woods for Last of the Mohicans. Yeah,
Daniel Day-Lewis wants to do this. Let's do it. Yeah, it's just so strange. And now Mads Mikkelsen's coming out about how ridiculous method acting is. And I don't think it's ridiculous. I think it actually works, especially for certain performances like Daniel Day-Lewis and Jared Leto. Talking Jared Leto.
No, I'm going to stop you right there. No, absolutely not. I totally disagree. Because here's the thing. A bunch of people are coming out now and saying how method acting has been taken to the extreme. It's now not only ridiculous and a hindrance, but also abusive to the rest of the people on set. And I wholeheartly agree. And
interesting.
Yeah, like sending a live rat to Margot Robbie is not method acting. That's you trying to excuse being a total asshole.
Yeah. I don't know. I can understand where you're coming from, though. I was actually talking with somebody recently about his whole cult thing and how he thought he was a Jesus. And believe me, I can understand his full of himselfness. Excuse me. I don't understand it. I don't know. Again, I'm not the guy. I don't know really what's going on, but I like what. And again, we've talked about separating the person from the art, and I think in a situation like Jared Leto's, I'm able to do that because. I really, really liked him in Dallas Buyers Club. I thought he was great. Did Did you ever see Dallas Buyers Club?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you
did
did?
a
Okay,
great
all
job
right.
in that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Okay, so you can say that he was a great actor in that movie.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen 30 Seconds to Mars live several times. I was a huge fan of his band. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I used to be a big fan of his. I just think everything has kind of gone to his head, and he's turned into someone I no longer care for or respect. And
I can understand that.
I think we've talked about this a little bit before, and we'll of course continue to. The treatment of women in the film industry is already bad enough without people sending them fucking rats, right?
Sure. No, yes, absolutely, for sure. I can completely understand where you're coming from. And the method thing is something that I likely will truly never understand because I've never been an actor and I've never wanted to dive that deep into a character I'm playing.
Agreed.
Because if you think about it, Daniel Day-Lewis method acted for the entire time. So he method acted when he was Gangs of New York, The Butcher. So what the fuck was that like? You know, like, could you imagine walking on the set and he's going to throw you a glance and you're like, oh shit, he's going to fucking smack me to death? Like, you know, it's just strange.
Yeah, it is strange. And, you know, there are very differing opinions on method acting. I think that whatever style you do, it's just important to remember that you're not the only one on set. You're not the most important one on set. And there are other people who are affected by your acting choices. And I think that's really what it comes down to. I
can understand that, definitely. I'm not an actor, so I don't ever and never have had the mindset of method acting and really trying to become a character. I respect method acting, and I just respect acting as an art in general.
Oh, agreed, and absolutely fair points. And yes, I have never been interested in the acting piece of filmmaking either. I think that's why you and I both went different directions than acting for our film industry careers.
Because Christian Bale's another one of those quote-unquote method actors. He really dives in. I don't know if he necessarily is
He's a weight
Daniel
method
Day-Lewis.
actor.
There we go. Weight method actor for sure. Yeah. Machinist, The Fighter, Vice. What else has he gained weight for? I mean, you know, it's and Christian Bale is definitely versatile, and not that Daniel Day-Lewis isn't. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. Method acting and acting. You know, you really dive
it's all forms of acting. You're right. So, getting back to Tom Hardy, which is how we started.
That's how we started.
The interesting thing is, I was introduced to Tom Hardy through a Star Trek movie called Star Trek Nemesis.
Very true.
Very young in that movie, and he definitely caught my attention immediately. I thought he did a very good job. And one of the other people who are in Rocknrolla also played a villain in a Star Trek movie.
Really?
Idris Elba was the villain in Star Trek Beyond.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. So
very cool.
Yeah. So Idris Elba is also in this movie. Someone who I would love to see as James Bond. He's one of my picks. Great actor and very beautiful, and is known for he's Heimdall in the Thor movies. He's the guy that controls the Bifrost with the special sword.
Very cool.
He was in the new Suicide Squad that premiered on HBO by James Gunn. He's Bloodsport.
Thumbs down.
Still
what
better.
What a horrendous waste of time that was.
Still better than the other Suicide Squad movie, though.
I didn't see that one. I turned off the James Gunn Suicide
worry.
Squad about 40 minutes into it. I thought the pacing was horrendous, and I thought Idris Elba's character was actually god-awful. I'm serious.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I have mixed feelings about that movie, but at the same time...
You watch it all the way through?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a pretty committed person. It's very hard for me to abandon books or movies that I end up not liking in the middle of. I'm one of those people who, if I start it, I really do want to finish it, even if it's terrible, just to see how it ends and confirm that I didn't like it.
I'll give you that. I definitely do what I can to finish. The thing about Suicide Squad was the editing and the pacing made me so angry. I just could not continue watching it.
And honestly, I think one of the reasons why I thought it was good is I had watched the other one and it was so bad.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of people like, well, this one's better than the other one. I'm like, well, that doesn't really say much.
Exactly. The rest of the people in Rocknrolla, and then we can move on to your pick this week, is Mark Strong. If you have listened to our episode 4 of our podcast, I introduced him in that episode. He is in Kingsman and original bad guy in the first Sherlock movie with Robert Downey Jr., and he's also in Stardust, which is our episode 4 pick. So Jeremy Piven famous for Entourage and most John Cusack movies. He plays a supporting character in Grosse Point Blank, Say Anything,
Definitely.
Serendipity. They're buddies.
Yeah, they're best friends, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Ludacris is in this movie. He is famous for the Fast and Furious franchise and also the iconic song, Move Bitch, Get Out the Way.
Of course, yes.
Lastly, from our last week's episode, we had mentioned that Carl Roden is in this movie. He was also in Running Scared, which is last week's episode. He is the Russian billionaire in this movie. He's very good in it. He's a very good, small but important character in this movie. And so, yeah, it's a great ensemble. A lot of really famous, very talented actors, I believe, in this movie, which just adds, I think, to its quality. And overall is just a really fun, really great movie that I highly recommend.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that Carl Roden was in this. I really like him in Running Scared and several other films. I liked him in this movie because he was a little bit of a different type of a gangster, and there was a little bit of class to his character in Rocknrolla that we don't normally see with Carl Roden, which I really like. And I also like that Carl Roden's character's like, this picture really brings me luck. Until our deal's done, why don't you take it and see what kind of luck it brings you? And of course, it brings nobody luck at all.
It's a curse.
It's a cursed painting, definitely.
So this film did premiere in 2008. It had a budget of $18 million and unfortunately only made $25 million in the worldwide box office. It did not do as well as his previous movie of Snatch, especially in the US. However, it did premiere at #1 in the UK, so that made me feel very happy.
All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, that gave me a good feeling like, oh, okay, this was appreciated.
It's so strange too because the violence in the movie is pretty intense at times, but like the last like 15 minutes is definitely on the verge of satisfaction. It's satisfying.
All right, so from there we are doing another Tom Hardy movie this week.
Indeed we are. We're doing the Tom Hardy lead, and by lead I mean he plays two characters in the film that I chose. This film came out in 2015. He plays twin brothers by the names of Reggie and Ron Cray, and this film is called Legend. And coming out in 2015, Tom Hardy is number 1 and 2, very likely on the call sheet, because I like to think about that, because if I were the second AD, I would put Tom Hardy as number 1 and as number 2 as Reggie and Ron.
Yes.
That's just how I would do it. And I think Tom Hardy would actually get a kick out of that, because Tom Hardy seems to be a cruise actor, which is what I've read in the past, and I only know this because going off this movie in particular, when he was shooting The Revenant with Alejandro Inarritu and Leonardo DiCaprio, he was very much into being a part of the crew and it being a family affair.
Nice.
And he was very upset at how Inarritu would treat his crew members on certain days. So he put Inarritu in a headlock. And during this moment, several crew members took photos of it. Tom Hardy asked who took photos of it. Tom Hardy got the photos. He made t-shirts. He passed them around the set of The Revenant. And I just love that. I love the fact that he was on the crew's side because of the insanely harsh conditions that The Revenant was shot in. If you've ever seen The Revenant, majority of it, 98% of it is practical. So you can only imagine how intense that was. And congrats to DiCaprio for getting the Oscar, even though he should have won it for The Aviator.
And The Departed, and et cetera, lots of
many
movies.
movies.
Everybody raved about The Revenant and were like, okay, this year he's going to win. This year he's going to win. And I came out of that movie and my friends asked me about it. My family asked me about it. And I said, that movie is a very, very good, well-made movie.
Yes.
But it was excruciating.
It was. And I like that, though. I've had several conversations with people about that. And they're like, that movie really was painful to watch.
Yes.
Because of how cold it looked and how barren the landscape was. And I'm going to tell you right now, that is the sign of a brilliant director. And that is Alejandro Inarritu.
No, that's a good
100 fucking %. If you are watching that movie and you're uncomfortable about the climate...
Yeah.
And you're sitting in a beautifully air-conditioned theater, he's done his goddamn job.
Yes.
So Legend, starring Tom Hardy as Reggie and Ron Cray. We have Emily Browning, who plays Frances, Reggie's wife. We have Taron Egerton. We have Christopher Eccleston. He has been around for decades, very, very prominently as Doctor Who. Some may recognize him as the villain in Gone in 60 Seconds.
It's the first place I recognize him from.
I recognized him from 28 Days Later as the general who promises his men women. And 28 Days Later, we can get into that. We can talk about that for hours. But Legend is written and directed by Brian Helgeland. Now, Helgeland is his last name, and I think that's interesting because Helgeland rhymes very, very closely with Gelderland. And Gelderland is the made-up town that Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein from A Knight's Tale is from, and also Brian Helgeland wrote and directed A Knight's Tale, which we talked about episodes ago. Years ago. And also, there was a bit of a cameo in this film, Legend, that I forgot about that made me smile so wide. Paul fucking Bettany shows up as a gangster in Legend. How awesome. He goes away from his cookie-cutter family friendliness, and he really just does a great job as the rival gangster in Legend. So 1960s London, we have Reggie and Ronnie Kray, two twin brothers. This is where the film is the most fascinating for me. Tom Hardy plays both brothers. Tom Hardy plays Reggie, very well put together guy. He's got his hair slicked back. He's very handsome.
Very suave.
Then we have Ronnie Kray. He's got a little bit of an underbite. He's got a bit of a broken nose. He's got glasses. He's got a much deeper voice. He's also homosexual. And I really like this movie because not only does Tom Hardy kill both of the roles that he plays in this movie, the supporting cast also is so fantastic that it really feels almost documentary-like in a sense to me. Because Tom Hardy, every time I've watched him, I have really believed him. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, it's like that conversation we had a couple episodes ago where the actor gets lost and you believe them as a character. Tom Hardy does disappear into his roles quite well.
He really does. And I think he does it very, very well in this movie in particular because of the different distinctions between brothers. And I also really like that the story is told from the point of view of Reggie's wife, Frances. And her character is very good at the beginning, and then you just really start to feel sorry for her because all she wants is a typical life, but she knows what she's gotten herself into. Mm-hmm. And I love gangster movies, but I hate how they treat their wives. And it's so infuriating, especially when things start, going the wrong way.
I agree. I think that it was interesting because I was a little bit conflicted with her in this movie. I think she did a great job. I love that it was told with her narrating.
Yes.
And it's interesting, though, because, she meets this guy. She knows his reputation. Her family certainly knows his reputation. Her brother works for him, for God's sakes. And they start getting involved and they start getting serious. And then she said, they get married. And she's like, okay, well, I want you to completely change and go straight now. And it's like, for me, I'm like, if you want that, then go find a straight-laced guy.
Exactly.
And don't try, no matter who you are, man or woman, don't try to change your spouse or the person you're dating. And that really, really irked me a bit, to be honest with you, because I was like, no, you fell in love with a gangster. Like, stop trying to make him promise you that he's going to go straight now. And it really reminded me of my time as a motorcycle racer, to be honest with you, because there would be all these women at the track and flirting with the racers, and they're, the racers are, motorcycle racers can be very alluring and they're kind of dangerous and everything, and they're great. But these women would then start dating these racers or get in serious relationship with them and say, oh, well, you need to stop racing because now we're married or now we have kids. And it's like,
right.
Why are you trying to change the person you fell in love with? This doesn't make any sense.
Right. And it's interesting that that's what you bring up because there was a very pivotal moment in the movie that happened between Ron and Frances when Reggie brings Frances to meet Ron after Ron has been released from the mental institution for being declared insane. Although the therapist was threatened about it, and then of course now Ronnie's out, but Ronnie openly tells Frances that he is a homosexual, and he says to her, "Don't hide what you are." And I found that very fascinating because in a way that is a foreshadowing for her to don't hide what you are, but my brother's not going to hide what he is either.
Right.
And I'm not going to hide what I am either, which is a ruthless, bloodthirsty, illogical gangster, which is said in the first few minutes after we meet Ronnie.
This is the thing that I loved about Ronnie's character, is that he was completely unapologetic. He is completely himself and does not give a single shit what people think about him. I'm like, yes, that's
not at all
what we aspire to be, right? Is not caring what other people think about us.
Absolutely. And when they make the deal with Chaz Palminteri's character character, Chaz Palminteri, actually even says almost that verbatim, because he's like, anytime you come to Vegas, let us know what woman you want. He goes, actually, I prefer boys. And then he's just like, man, the ball's on you for actually just saying that like that. Cheers to that. Cheers to that. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. He's being honest. That's what he wants. Just let him have what he wants.
In the 60s with gangsters.
Yeah, right. A gangster homosexual in the 60s of London.
Yes.
Really just being like, yeah, well, I like men. And he's always got one or two next to him. And that was fascinating to me, too, is the way that they used that in certain advantages. I thought was very, very well done.
So before our audience who are listening gets too far ahead of themselves and is like, oh my gosh, this movie sounds ridiculous, or that's a weird storyline, this is based on a true story.
Yes, these two actually existed.
Yes, they absolutely
Ronnie and
did.
Reggie Cray existed in the 60s, and that's why I think another reason for me that this movie is so fascinating is because the fact that Tom Hardy is both of the brothers is amazing, and I love this whole thing like that, the Nutty Professor kind of perfected back in the day with Eddie Murphy, and certain movies even earlier than that perfected that split screen situation where the same person is talking to the same person.
And the Parent Trap with Lindsay Lohan.
There we go. Parent Trap, Lindsay. Oh, well, actually, Haley Mills back in the day, the original. She played twins. Haley Mills does not have a twin. So, yeah, it goes back to early cinematic, wonderful, magic, sorcery, I guess is what the word is. Because I still, as much as I feel like I could probably talk to myself on screen, I don't know if I really could pull it off. And the way that they pull it off is so seamless. And there was 35 days of shooting for Tom Hardy. Tom Hardy shot in those 35 consecutive days. The movie had a 50-day shooting schedule itself because there's definitely scenes without Tom Hardy in it. Tom Hardy spent 35 days doing everything of both of the characters. Every day, Tom Hardy would shoot whatever brother had the most dialogue first.
Okay.
Then he would go into the hair and makeup trailer and become whatever either Ronnie or Reggie after that. And Ronnie is, I've already mentioned, he has the underbite, he's got the nose, he's got the hair, he's got the glasses, and his voice. There is a distinct difference between both Ronnie and Reggie. And Tom Hardy is flawless in it. It's flawless.
Agreed. At first I was like, okay, this is either going to be really obvious or, a little awkward. And, I was just a little bit wary of this movie. I've heard good things from a lot of the movie accounts that I follow on social media. A lot of people talk about this movie.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. And so I've heard great things about this movie, but at the same time, someone playing two people can be really challenging, especially because there are times when actors will try to show a distinction so much that they're almost overacting or overdoing it. And I was a little bit nervous about that. And he is so good. So good.
I'll give you that. I was worried.
Absolutely believed that those were two different people.
100%. One of my favorite sequences is when the truce is about to be made. They walk into the bar. Reggie orders a Guinness. Bartender says, I just got to change the barrel. And he goes downstairs and he locks himself downstairs because he knows what the fuck is about to happen. And Reggie's standing there. And then the other guy comes up behind Reggie. And Ronnie comes back. And I love the dialogue just before Ronnie leaves. I came here for a proper shootout. And you bring a roller to a shootout. And he leaves. And then Reggie's just like, it's my brother. Fuck it. It's going to be all right. And then all hell absolutely breaks loose.
What is that?
Yeah, what do you think, Puff? It's a fucking tool.
No, it's not. It's a fucking rolling pin. Who are you, Fanny Craddock? What are you going to do with that? You going to bake me a cake? You going to sing me a song, watch me blow out me fucking candles? I come here for a fucking shootout, right? A proper shootout with some proper men. Like Colonel Custer and Geronimo. Have you ever heard of them? No. Because you were too busy in your pinny baking fucking fairy cakes, weren't you? Rich, this lot of fucking nonsense to a man. They're fucking nonsense. Get out of your fucking way. Go on, get up. Go on, fuck off. Call yourself a fucking gangster. Shootout, right? It's a fucking shootout! Like a western. Wankers. Fucking embarrassing. Waste of our time. Fucking waste of our time.
Oh, your brother's done a runner.
Nah, he's just genuinely disappointed with you, that's all.
And that's another reason why I love the sequences with both Tom Hardy and Tom Hardy, because every shot is so meticulously planned. The editing is so good that you really believe that Tom Hardy is in two places at fucking once.
Yeah, absolutely. And yes, I wrote down that bar scene because I was like, oh my God, this is intense.
The hammers coming down, everything.
I mean, if you enjoyed Casino, if you enjoyed Goodfellas, if you enjoyed The Departed, definitely watch this movie. This is
100%. Yeah.
Authentic gangster movie, and it's authentic in a lot of levels, including the 60s setting. The set design and the costume in this movie
costumes
fantastic.
Were so awesome.
They were subtle but authentic, so beautiful. The suits were great. They did such a good job, and I was absolutely immersed in this time period. I thought
I was too, yeah.
The way they put together the movie was very beautiful and very well done. One of the things that is a common theme in this movie that they talk about a lot is how the rich people of London love to rub elbows with gangsters as long as they're not gonna get hurt or there's no risk to it, right? And the comments that they make about, oh well, gangsters and aristocrats are really similar to each other, and they go on about why, and I was like, yeah, that's a good monologue. That was really well written.
No, that's the other thing too. Brian Helgeland, he really sunk his teeth into this one. And I really like you said, the costumes, the music, the authenticity. So the night that Reggie takes Frances out, he's taking her to his club. They sit down at a table, but he's taken away to deal with some business. And I think that's definitely the genesis of the human side of Reggie and then the gangster side of Reggie. Whereas with Ronnie, it's gangster from the get-go. There's no other, it's literally 0 to 60 immediately with Ronnie, and that's because of his paranoid schizophrenia. So one of my favorite supporting characters in this movie, David Thewlis, which if I am pronouncing your name incorrectly, sir, I do apologize, but I remember seeing you for the first time ever in my life in Dragonheart, and I will never forget that movie. I'll never forget that role. I've also seen you in the Harry Potter films as well.
I love that you've seen Dragonheart, by the way. My dad introduced me to that movie when I was younger because he's, like I said, I've said in previous episodes, he introduced me to the sci-fi and fantasy genres of film. I mean, he introduced me to films in general, but he's a big sci-fi and fantasy fan, and Dragonheart is very, under the radar, underrated, and the fact that not only have you seen that movie, but you like that movie makes me so happy.
Oh, my sister, my father, and I saw Dragonheart in theaters at Movies 8 on Palmdale Boulevard in Palmdale, California when it came out.
Nice.
So David Thewlis plays Leslie Payne. Leslie Payne is essentially the right-hand man to the Krays. I remember watching it with, and you know him, Joel Kramer. We ended up watching this movie together when it was probably 2016. I remember renting it on Redbox. So I came home with it, and I was like, hey, man, I got this movie Legend. I read about it. It's Tom Hardy. He plays twin brothers that are gangsters in London. I think it sounds awesome. And we watched it, and he and I both loved it. And when we watched this movie, he was very much like, yeah, that was a great movie. I didn't know anything about those guys. I didn't know anything about the 1960s London gangster world. And I was the same way. I had no idea. It's just we are fed the stories of our country. And I think that's another reason why Legend really got in deep with me, is because it happens everywhere. It doesn't just happen in Vegas. It happens in London. It happens in Paris. It happens in Australia, New Zealand, etc., etc. So there's a lot that's very cerebral about this movie because of the fact that it's a true story and that it actually happened. And there's one story that I'm very excited to tell you about. I'm not sure if you know about it or not, but Brian Helgeland was doing a documentary on Led Zeppelin, and he was on tour with them. One of their roadies had a missing finger, and Brian Helgeland asked Robert Plant what happened to that guy's finger. Robert Plant said, the Krays took it.
Oh, no shit.
No shit. Can you fucking imagine?
Oh, Christ.
And then however many years later, 2015, this was like in the 70s, 80s. 2015 comes around. Maybe Brian Helgeland started writing this movie in the 2012 era, around that time, because it came out in 2015. Maybe he was working on it for years. But the fact that he was trying to make a documentary on Led Zeppelin and they bring up the Krays, and now we have this movie with Tom Hardy playing both of them, directed by Brian Helgeland. Awesome.
Oh,
I think that's great.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So Legend was a UK release first, September 9th of 2015. In the US, it was released a few months later on November 20th of 2015. So the budget of Legend was $30 million. Pounds, probably, because it was a UK. In North America alone, it brought in $86,836. Not sure how many theaters it was released into, but I'm going to tell you right now, I did not know about this movie as a theatrical release. I only knew about it as a rental. Now, worldwide, across the globe, it pulled in $42 million. So it did very, very well in the UK. The interesting thing about Legend to me is that it is the highest grossing 18-rated British film of all time, surpassing.
What?
Hang on. Surpassing. Now, this is 2015. The movie that it is surpassed was from 1996. That movie is one of my all-time favorite films, Trainspotting.
Wow.
It beat Trainspotting as the highest-grossing United Kingdom release.
Wow, for over 18.
Isn't that fascinating?
That is fascinating.
I love that.
That's the thing that what I'm really excited about with our podcast is that this movie is super popular in the UK, but most Americans haven't heard it. And so hopefully we're introducing Americans to this movie.
I really hope so. I really hope that people will truly just hit the Amazon button or the Apple TV and rent this and watch this 2-hour and 15-minute movie and just be blown away by the fact that Tom Hardy is brilliant. Everybody in the movie is fantastic, but the story is so fascinating. And it beat Trainspotting.
You know what's funny, though, a little tidbit, is when you said Legend, my first thought was the 1986 Tim Curry, Tom Cruise movie Legend, which is very, very different than this gangster
Far
movie.
different. I've actually not seen that one.
Oh, it's great.
I've not seen the Tom Cruise Legend.
Oh, yes, it'll be on the list, especially because Tim Curry's amazing.
Perfect.
Yes.
So this is a part of the podcast that we do every now and then, and I like to have V guess. And I like to have V guess what the highest grossing film of 2015 was. However, the last few films that we've done this with have been U.S. gross. We're going to do a worldwide gross because of the fact that this is a film that was released in the UK first and not in the United States. So what do you think the highest film of 2015 was worldwide gross? Your hint is space. Space.
2015 highest grossing. Well, I was going to say Jurassic World, but that doesn't have anything to do with space.
Oddly enough, Jurassic World was the number 2 highest worldwide.
Oh, okay.
Piece of shit.
Just hates Jurassic World, which I respect. Okay.
With a burning passion.
You said 2015, right?
2015 highest grossing worldwide box office. Number 1. Number 2 you already just chose.
Okay. Space. Is it so it's a sci-fi movie?
Could be.
Is it a Star Wars movie?
Could be.
Is it Star Wars Force Awakens?
100% correct.
Hey!
$2,068,223,624. Number 1 worldwide grossed film of 2015 was Star Wars The Force Awakens. And I'll be honest, I loved it. I did.
Me too.
I love The Force Awakens. I hate The Last Jedi.
Really?
It's horrendous. So bad.
The Star Wars movie?
Next to Marriage Story, it is Kylo Ren's worst performance. Adam Driver's worst performance.
His best performance is on Undercover Boss's skit in SNL, though.
Oh, I haven't seen that one. I might have to check that one out.
Hilarious.
Please do send me that link.
He plays Kylo Ren. It's hilarious.
What? Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I like me some Adam Driver. I really do. I love him in Black Klansman. I like him as Kylo Ren. I did not like him in Marriage Story. Marriage Story made me so angry. But Adam Driver as an actor, I loved him in Silence too. I think he's very good. I think he's great. Mm-hmm. But we're getting away from Legend.
Yes, we are. And it's just so funny that you're talking about, worldwide gross $2 billion, where both of our movies made like $30 million each.
I know. Yeah. No, but Legend did not do well in the U.S. box office, and understandably so. It wasn't a year for movies like that. It was a year for very special effects-driven type movies, and I, again, get that, but I think it's, in a strange way, I think it's an important piece of history for London, for people to actually know about, because anytime somebody watches Casino or The Godfather or Goodfellas, they're like, That's an important piece of history that I didn't know about. Then watch Legend. Let's watch some other gangster type movies. Like what kind of gangster movies could we watch about from China and Japan and, you know, all those countries. It happens everywhere. That's the other thing that I think Legend kind of does convey, the fact that the mafia and the mob are everywhere. Regardless of the glamour and the glitz of the city that you want to move to, there's still going to be a very dirty, gritty, brutal underground. And if you fuck with the wrong people, you're fucked.
Yeah, and there will always be bad guys trying to take advantage of others, no matter where you are.
Exactly.
No matter where you are. No, it's a great movie. And, you know, one of the things I didn't talk about with my movie, and I think this is a good spot to talk about, is where you can watch our films.
Oh, yes. Yeah. You can definitely watch Legend on Netflix currently. It is on streaming Netflix, and then you can rent it on any other streaming service that you would like.
Yes, it is on Netflix US, which is great. That's how I watched it. And Rocknrolla is available to rent on Amazon Prime for $3.99, as well as through Apple TV for $3.99.
Perfect.
All right, and we cannot forget the part of our show we like to call "Would You Watch This with Your Grandma?"
Yeah. Legend, I probably would not watch with my grandmother. I don't think so.
Brutal.
No.
So brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
I would actually watch Rocknrolla with my grandma.
Rocknrolla, I probably would watch that with my grandmother. That one's not as intense as Legend, I feel. I feel like there would be a little bit more enjoyment with Rocknrolla because of the stylized action of it, whereas Legend has a little bit more of a brutal, gritty, true life kind of true crime feel to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Rocknrolla is just a fun caper, where Legend is more of a violent, brutal biopic.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, nice. Okay, great. Anything else we need to cover about these two movies?
No, I think we got it.
Well, we certainly are still figuring things out and crafting our episodes, so always happy to get constructive criticism and feedback. And also, of course, always welcoming recommendations. If you have a movie from, say, another country, since we talked about that a lot today, that you think people should watch, go ahead and drop it in one of our social media channels or at our email address. Everything is at moviesyoummissedpod, and our Gmail is the same, moviesyoummissedpod@gmail.com. Feel free to get in touch with us. Let us know. Would love to hear from you. And thank you so much for listening to us this week. We really enjoyed these movies and this episode. It was a great time.
So good. I love these movies.
And
last week's and the weeks before.
And hopefully the weeks following.
Oh, yeah.
One of the pieces of feedback that we did get from a couple people, actually, was that they were hoping that we'd give a sneak preview of the movies we will be covering in the following episodes, so people have a chance to watch them ahead of time, which I thought was so cool.
I really like that idea. It will bring us closer together.
Yeah, agreed. It'll be like we're all watching it together.
Exactly.
So, do you want to tell them what your pick is for next week?
I would love to tell everybody what my pick is for next week. I chose the Brendan Fraser-led Monkey Bone. Live action, stop-motion animation directed by Henry Selick. If anybody is interested, check it out.
And I chose Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Next week is a definite turn from the last few weeks of mob movies, and so we went in the opposite direction and chose movies that had animation and tunes in them. So if you want to watch those ahead of time with us before we air the episode, please feel free to do so. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is available on Disney Plus as well as Amazon Prime.
Fantastic pick, by the way, V.
Thank you.
Of course. And my film is available on YouTube, Google Play, Apple, Vudu, and Amazon Prime as well. All available for rent for $3.99.
Fantastic. So we look forward to reviewing and recommending those movies next week. Please feel free to watch them ahead of time if you are able. Otherwise, no worries if you don't get a chance to watch those movies ahead of time, though, because as always, this show is no spoilers.
So, as we like to sign off, film is a form of art, and in art, every opinion is valid except if you think.
Crash deserved to win the Oscar for Best Movie in 2005.
Ooh.
Since Thana Dwayne Newton was an actress that we talked about in today's episode, I figured that would be a good time to drop that little nugget
That's right.
of
She
truth.
was in that. She was pulled out by Matt Dillon.
Yeah, oh, God, that was so
Yes.
awful. I mean, great acted and written scene, but terrible to watch. Yes, and so that's what made me think of it.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, as always, it's wonderful to be your co-host.
So much fun, Vee.
And until next time, thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.